I created a video on the replacement of the fender of a 2006 Dodge Grand Caravan. In the process of making that, I had some video left over from the hinge area of the door. You can see where the hinges are bolted and the wire harness and everything. So I'm going to use some leftover footage from that to start this video off, and then it'll get into the actual separate video footage that I made in actually replacing the door. So enjoy. Because I think you can access everything with the fender on, but as I'm looking at it, I can see the bolts and everything for the door. So I think I'm going to end up just unscrewing the bolts for the hinges that are physically onto the door right in here, and I believe they go straight in, and the bolts here have the oval holes for adjustment. So if that's the case, assuming that all these doors are made exactly the same, maybe the other door, if I get that on here, I won't have to adjust any of this stuff. So I'm probably going to just try to unscrew these 4 bolts here, and then the wire harness here should unplug. I know this is kind of tricky to get this off. This pushes up. I had trouble getting this off in the junkyard. I did wiggle it and eventually get it off, but I don't know if there's an easy way to do it. I didn't want to break anything. It looks like you could stick a screwdriver in there. I would think normally you don't have this access because the panel wouldn't be off. So if you're accessing it through this hole in the fender or in the cover, you really can't get at too much. This whole thing does slide off of this metal clip here. That might help you a little bit, but I think it's just tight, and you kind of have to wiggle it once you open this up here. So I'll figure that out, and I'll let you know. So here's where the wires are plugged together and into the car here. This was hard to get unplugged in the junkyard when I was taking the door off there, so I started doing what I'm doing now last year. So it was prior to that even that I took the door off in the junkyard. So I'm really going to be just revisiting this, I guess, from scratch. I do have the plug from the car, or from the door on from the junkyard to look at. So I'm going to try to get in there with a little screwdriver or whatever and try to pull that out. So I guess I'll try to get it out and then maybe explain or show how I got it apart. This part here, the metal clip, was easy to get that out. I just lifted that out a little bit and pulled it out. So the main plug is what the concern is there. Once that's out, that's the only thing I think, besides the hinging, that need to get taken apart. As far as the wires and things. Alright, so this is the plug down here. I was able to get this out. This is just the metal clip. You just push it on here and this comes out. Push it on the same type of clip here and this whole thing comes out. So now we have to get this off here. So if you see here, you can push this up with the screwdriver and that'll pop and go up about, well, just as far as this will be even with the black here. Once that's popped up, then you can press down on this and then wiggle and jiggle and it'll come out. In order to move this gray, slide it back down to lock it in there, this has to be completely plugged back in again. It doesn't seem like it'll move unless it's plugged in all the way. So that was difficult. I was trying it here and I got it to go in, but I really had to squeeze it, and then I was able to lock this back down. So just get the screwdriver and just push up on here it's not, don't have to put too much pressure on it. I don't know, I can't do it while holding the camera, so. So just got the screwdriver and pressed up on this, and you can see it's raised up here. It only goes so far; it does not come completely out. Now I'm going to press this right here. Press this down, so you don't have to stick a screwdriver in there or anything. Just press this down. It's like a little button, and then try to get your hand in here to hold the back part, and then your other hand to hold the front part here, and just kind of wiggle it, and it'll come apart. So I got it apart. And you can see somehow this gray part, I couldn't slide it over on the door that I have off. I couldn't slide it over just in trying to see how it works. It looks like it has to be plugged in, and some part of that lifts something in here and allows it to move. I didn't want to break it. And this part here is the part that's like a button. You just push this down here, and that lifts the plastic inside here, and then the plug will come out. I was looking over how to take the door off in the junkyard. I took the hinges completely off. Don't know, it doesn't seem like you have very much access to the hinges. I took them off from the body of the vehicle and not off the door part. So I think because I had the fender off, I think I may have taken that off first. That gave me extra access. I don't really feel like taking the fender off here. So I was looking at some other videos, and it seemed like possibly taking the pin out of the hinges would be a good idea. But there's not a lot of access in here to get to that either. So you're going to have to hammer on the pin from the bottom there, and I just don't see it being enough space to get any leverage on that. Maybe if you had some kind of a air tool that could just vibrate it out, but I don't have that. So I was looking at the access of the bolts actually on the door, and they're accessible, and I just loosened them just with the regular ratchet. This happens to be 13 millimeter, and they weren't, wasn't too bad. So I'll take them off. I have the door propped up. I have a tire underneath in case it falls, and I have jack stands here. So this is the bad door, so I sort of don't have to worry too much about it, but certainly it'll be a different story when I'm putting the new one on. So I'll take these bolts out. I'm going to take this off first, the positioner for the door, and that'll just be these two bolts here, because I don't want to bend that and break it inside here. That came off pretty easy. You definitely need to have the door supported. Someone holding it would be ideal. The jack stand worked well. Probably would put some cardboard on the jack stand if I'm using if I'm not using help with this one. So we'll see what happens with that. But I noticed inside here that there's some cracking in the wires here, so I don't know if that's something I should deal with now or not. I don't know if that was from the hit or not. I might put a little bit of electrical tape, because I see some bare wire showing here. So long as I have this opened and accessible, I might do that just to be preventative. So I'll be trying to get this door on next after I do the wires here, and then we'll go from there. I'm not going to put any of the panels on the door yet. I think, I will. It does give me a little bit of access in the hinge area if I need to. I want to hook it up electronically with the wire and then see if everything works first. So if the window motor doesn't work, then I'll have to take this apart, and I don't want to have to take the stuff off again. I'm going to try to leave these hinges on here and then just bolt the door on. I'm hoping that there's nothing bent on the hinges at all and everything will line up. There was an issue with the door latch here. It was banging on that. I'm hoping that the door that was on here was just bent a little bit, or something, you know, from the impact was causing that. There's only 2 bolts on each of these, so that would be easier to adjust. The door, I believe, without taking the hinges off there, because there's 6 bolts on those hinges going to, and there's no access to them. We got this all bolted on here. It was a little hard to adjust. I had my wife actually come out here and hold the door up on this end, and had a little trouble getting the bottom bolt in. But once everything was in, it was hitting as it was closing, so we had to lift up on it basically as high as it would go. But even so, it does hit up here. But it does just kind of push into place, and it latches better on the latch. It doesn't bang like it used to. So I guess it's going to have to be good enough bodywork again. Probably the constructs of the van there might be bent a little bit from the impact that I can't see, so it's not worth the aggravation to get it to be perfect. It does close better than it did, and if that's going to hit a little bit there, then that's too bad. So now it's time to try the hook the wire in. I got to plug the wire in and see if the window works and the door locks work. So I plugged this in here, and I had to squeeze it really tight, getting my hand in there, squeeze it nice and tight, pressing this plastic button part here. And if you get it in tight enough, you'll be able to press this gray piece down through here to lock that in there. It wasn't a lot of force that I had to do to press that down in there, but this has to be in all the way. Now I just have to, there's a metal thing here to push that down, and there's a little tab in there, and these 2 things slide onto the metal clips, and that's it. I tried the window and the locks, and they work, so that's good. So I'll look at getting the new panel, take the panel off the broken door and put it onto this one. This one's pretty scarfy looking, so we can keep the buttons and stuff and use them for spares, or the speaker and stuff like that. But other than that, we'll just use that whole door panel. Just because this is here and I want to get this out of the way, I pulled it out. I kind of forgot about it a little bit. The trim, the rubber gasket around the door, I have to get that back on. So there's a distinct shape to it, so you line that up and you just kind of fold the piece. There's grooves and stuff on there, and they just go into the makings of these edges of the door here, come right around and basically just go in there. So it doesn't seem like it'll be too hard. It didn't come off. It wasn't hard to get off. The hardest part will probably be getting these little plastic clips inside the holes. There's holes in the rubber, and these kind of fit in there, so you just got to squeeze them in there. But it's more tedious than hard. It'll just be going through the motions. I thought this would be just a little tedious, but trying to get these, holding them out with a screwdriver a little bit and just stretching this hole around, seems like it wouldn't be too bad. And I got a couple of them in. but there's a lot. There's like 25 of these, if not more, going around here. So I decided to see if there's another way to do it, and I actually just pulled them out. So you can pry it out with a screwdriver, or if you had needle nose pliers, you can take it out of there. Just try not to scrape the paint. It's going to be underneath, so it probably doesn't really matter. So then you can just take this and more easily put it in the hole, the rubber here, and then just push it right in. So that's what I'm going to do. One thing that I did not anticipate was the door positioner. This has to go around the door positioner, so I'm going to unbolt that and see if I can squeeze that around there. If you were doing this, it probably would be a good idea to put the gasket on before you put the door on. But if this comes out easily, then it's no big deal. But that's where I'm at now. So it's either going to be a big pain in the butt, and I'm going to have to struggle, or it'll just go right through. So we'll see. This is the panel I got off of the original door. I'm going to be putting a bunch of these videos together. So I think I showed this originally on the junkyard door, but there's a screw here and a screw here. And there's supposed to be one on the bottom, down underneath here. But the original door didn't have that, and I don't think that the junkyard door did either. But then after that, you just lift up the bottom of the door, get underneath it with a screwdriver, and then just basically pull it up from the bottom and work your way down, and you'll hear the things pop out of the holes, the snaps. Once you got the bottom done and the sides, the only thing that's holding it is the top is hanging off of the door here. Just hanging off of here. And then you'll have to take your plug off. This has one of those slide pieces also, so this would slide that to unlock it. Push this to pull it out. This just pulls out with this part here. Just lift that up, and then this is for your lock, or for the door handle. Actually, I think the opener. There's a plastic fastener here, and it's slightly smaller than this, so it pops over this. So you just got to pop that off and rotate it. I'll show you over here, and then that's off. Then the panel comes right off. So that plastic piece is right here. So you can see it just fits, it just goes in here. So you have this, an extra piece on the other door if this were to break on you. But so we'll put this back on now, and I cleaned it up. It's kind of dirty. Ours was a little bit dirty, but not as skanky as the one from the junkyard. So I wiped that all down, and I'm going to put that back on now. It appeared on both doors that everything snapped off correctly, and it all did snap off, but some of the inserts, like this part is supposed to be in the door, and then it's supposed to be a spindle like this sticking out. So I had to make sure that everything on the door is the way it's supposed to be. So there's nothing in these holes, and the whole pin is here, the insert and the pin. So these will go into these holes. So if you're doing this, you gotta make sure, otherwise your door's not going to go on. You're going to be pressing and and wondering why it's not clicking. I fortunately have the other door to work with, so I was able to get these out. Some of them, it's stuck inside the door here, so you're gonna have to. I broke a couple of them off, but then I figured out if I squeeze inside, I can actually reach in and get the parts here that hold it in the hole, and I was able to get it off the old door. So so just pay attention to that so you don't cause yourself some problems and frustration. There's two different size pins too. There's these smaller white ones, and then over on the side here there are larger gray ones. It looks like the larger ones are only over on the side that's in by the hinges. I'm going to put this on now, do the two wires and the lever, the two plugs, and get it fastened on there, and we're pretty much on the way to being done. So I got the whole panel on after getting all the pins situated and whatnot, and I thought this is great. Everything was nice and tight. And then when I went to close the door and try it, I realized that I hadn't switched out the handle. I painted the handle on the door just in case I did need it. It would already be painted. But I thought, well, I might as well switch the handle out because the other one is the way it's supposed to be, plus it has the key on it. So that will match up with the key in case I have to open it up without the key fob. So I had to take it all off again. Hopefully it'll go back on as easy as it was going on before. That's where I'm at right now. But remember to change your door handle out if you are going to be doing that before you put it back together. By the way, if you are going to be taking your handle off, it's 3 bolts. You got to take your skin off like this, and then inside here, I don't know if you'll be able to. Right up in here, there's 1 bolt there, and there are 2 over there, and then there's 2 clips. There's a blue clip and a green clip, and they just pop off the spindle just like the door handle that we did earlier. So pull them out, take those 3 screws out, everything will come out. You can access the bolts just through these holes here, and it comes right out. And just do the same thing backwards and you're set. Well, that's it. Got the door panel back on. Everything works. Wires are all in. Closes good. Color is disappointing, but good enough body work. It's a full, complete door. I have to glue this down. They have a tape on there. It is really tight for the part that is glued down, but put a little back here to fasten that. And I'll look at painting this maybe in the coming weeks, depending on the weather. If not, that'll just have to do. I might have to fix the wheel well area a little bit better. And then the last thing to conquer would be the bumper, but it took me a year to do the door, so who knows. That's that. It is hitting up here a little bit still, but the force of closing it easily makes it latch, and it doesn't make any real weird noises or clanging noises, so I'm satisfied.